Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I know you probably have seen or heard about this sign, but it's too good not to mention again this morning. 20 years ago, we had Johnny Cash, Bob Hope, and Steve Jobs. Now we have no Cash, no Hope, and no Jobs. Please don't let Kevin Bacon die. Good morning, here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning, good morning. Oh, thank you very much. The wonderful and beautiful, talented Kate Smith. Wow, she does a great job. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell, and we're right here on Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And service is the key word, along with some of our great advertisers that include Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. You get on the route service today, 734-6969. Now, with great trepidation, we saunter down the road towards K-Bar and knock very cautiously on the door to see if she is in a good mood or a bad mood. Here is Gina Jameson.
Well, actually, I'm in a better mood than yesterday. However, I haven't eaten yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, feed her. Please feed her.
I have got a biscuit, a sausage biscuit, frozen, you know, those frozen kind in the freezer that I'm going to be heating up shortly.
Hey, yesterday, my neighbor came down, and he is a delightful Mexican man that I just absolutely enjoy visiting with. I learned so much about the language and everything, and he had listened to us yesterday on the radio talk about hummingbirds.
Oh, yes.
And I didn't know the Spanish name for hummingbirds was chuparosas.
Chuparosas?
Chuparosas.
I'm going to have to practice that word.
Chuparosas. That's a pretty word, you know what I mean?
It is actually. I like the way it rolls off the
Chuparosas.
Yeah.
For hummingbirds. I learned that. Now I'm going to go out later on today and watch the chuparosas.
Here's my question. How many feeders do you guys have outside?
I don't know. About 973. Deanne loves birds. Birds all over the place. You can't look up with your mouth open.
I guess that's a good reason why you guys don't have cats.
Well, we need cats. I mean, we have got more voles and mice than we've ever had before. Those voles are the pesky little devils that have come in and just really messed up everything.
I know. I'm not too happy. I haven't had any voles, but then again, I have 4 cats, so they take care of that problem.
That a girl. Hey, do we have a pledger?
We have Mr. Michael Rogers on for the pledge and for the weather.
All right. Thank you very much, Gina. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Rogers with our Pledge of Allegiance.
Morning, everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michael Rogers Weather, a very talented young man, and notice I said young Michael. Rock Creek Growers brings you MichaelRogersWeather.com on the corner of Maxine Lane and Irene Streets in Kimberly. Oh my goodness, they've got everything for the beautification of your home, all the plants, all the shrubs, all the trees, all the patio pavers, everything along with all the ceramic pots. I mean, go in there and talk to the Anderson family. What nice organized people. They've been in business since 1988. Rock Creek Growers, corner of Maxine Lane and Irene Streets in Kimberly. And now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Morning, everybody. Today is going to be a cool one. How about that? We get a break today. Sun, clouds, cooler temperatures for the daytime high. Look at the top out today to a high of 88. How about that? Nice and comfortable. Thunderstorms in the forecast tomorrow. It gets back up to hot again. We'll see low 90s, and that'll take us right into the weekend. But other than that, for today, and since I am a young man, thank you very much, Zeb Bell, enjoy the weather. The only weather you got.
Our friend, MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you by Rock Creek Growers on the corner of Maxine Lane and Irene Streets in Kimberly. Well, good morning, everybody, and we've got one story in particular that I really want to get into this morning, and it's such a disturbing and very cold story. I mean, this is as murderous and as venomous as it gets, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, so stand by. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. Throw open the doors, sing Kumbaya, hold hands, and say, come on in. I'll tell you, they've got all your fluorescent and HID lighting, all your fuses, your rubber cord, everything you need electrical is at Ramsey Heating and Electric. And we've got big things planned for September 11th, 9/11. Don't miss it at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Also, real fast, I have not yet had a chance to go fishing once this year. Now, I can guarantee you next week I'm going to go. I need some equipment. I know where to go and check out all the reels, the rods, fishing and lures, and all the hunting and camping equipment. Where? Valley White Home and Ranch. Everything for the family, the farm, the ranch, it's all there. And don't forget, they got all your feed for your livestock. They've got the knowledgeable people over there that can help you. So stop in and talk to the people that are the pros at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert, serving you. This story it's just so cold, the milk of human kindness can't find anything to do with this story. 3 black teens, and I'm going to be very emphatic about who and what they are. 3 black teenagers shoot and kill a man that's jogging down the road in front of them, in front of their house. They're sitting on the porch because they were bored. I can't make any of this up. It's just too heinous a story to add or delete anything. They shot the man that was running by their house because they were bored and didn't have anything to do. Oh, my good God. They were sitting on their front steps. They were bored, and so they killed someone. When I read about this story, and I hear your mic going on, but yes. Gina, I'm telling you, there's a couple of things that need to be said right here at the beginning of this story. Where's Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and especially where is President Obama? And my question is, and I'm going to be very blunt, if somebody's offended by this, your problem, not mine. If President Obama doesn't say anything about this, I'm going to absolutely admonish him further than I have, because who of these 3 black punks does he want to resemble in this particular case?
Yeah. I actually read that story yesterday. The young man, he was actually from Australia.
Yeah.
He was playing in Oklahoma
yeah.
on the baseball team. He was out for a morning jog. And these teens, 15, 16, 17 years old, and in the story that I read, oddly enough, it did not mention their race. It didn't mention whether they were Hispanic or black or white or whatever. And it just said that, yep, we were bored, we had nothing to do, so we decided it was something to do. So while he was jogging by, they ran up behind him, and I'm not sure exactly all the specifics, but they basically shot him in the back.
Shot him in the back while he was jogging down the road, not doing a thing to anyone. And the interesting part that you just brought up, to which I was going to allude to after the initial dissertation, is that, yes, the story says this as follows. 3 local juveniles.
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it as it is. These are 3 black punks. That's all they are, is black punks. 3 teenagers, 15, 16, and 17. And I want to know why, when the Trayvon Martin case came about, and Trayvon Martin was not innocent in any way, shape, or form in that case with Mr. Martin, or I should say with George Zimmerman, pardon me. But when Trayvon Martin was confronted, he dove on top of Mr. Zimmerman and was beating his head in the pavement. This also was a young punk, and that's how the jury and that's how the court system saw it. Now, I'm not advocating anybody taking the law into their own hands and killing or shooting anyone, but in this case, the Trayvon Martin case, Hollywood started wearing T-shirts and going absolutely ballistic about, oh, poor Trayvon, this is a tragedy. And Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and even President Obama came out in favor of just throwing the cell door shut on George Zimmerman or even turning on the electric chair. Where is the outrage over this story?
I think that everybody needs to start wearing T-shirts on this one and create the uproar. I think that that's what we need to do. We need to create the uproar. And actually, I'm looking at a story. I just pulled it up. It was refreshed, and it actually shows the teens. 2 of them have now been charged with first-degree murder. They will be charged as adults, which I think that they should be. This is just, it's horrendous. Just, oh, well, you know, guys, what do you want to do today? I don't know. I'm bored. You want to kill somebody? Okay, yeah, sounds like a great idea.
Did you happen to read in the story that you have, and this was sent to me, all of this, I have a pile of papers on this. The most recent story came from my dear friend down in Texas, at Austin, Texas, Randy Givens, that earlier in the day, it has been indicated that they were also out and shooting dogs.
I did not know that.
Yeah. They'd shot a dog earlier. And it says, let me see, I'll find out if I can find that here in the story. It's a very, very lengthy story. But they had shot a dog earlier in the day, and then they go out and said that they were bored. That's the words that were used by the 3 black punks. They said they were bored, so they went up behind this man and shot him in the back with a .22.
Well, I think that hopefully justice, and I'm saying harsh justice, will be served in this case. And I honestly think that, and I hate to say this, you know what? Make an example out of these kids. Make an example out of them, because this stuff can't be going on anymore.
You know, Gina, what do you, when you say make an example, though, think about this. There are going to be the bleeding heart liberals out there, and they're already cranking up their music in their little tin band. And they're going to say, well, these are kids. They were just absolutely unaware of really the consequences and everything. 15, 16, and 17, don't give me that garbage.
No, they knew. They're old enough to make their own decisions, apparently so, and just say, oh, you know, well, what do you want to do today, guys? I don't know, I'm bored. Let's go kill somebody. Oh.
And here's the other thing. I don't want anybody on the left, and there are a bunch of radicals on the left that are Democrats in this area that have the combined IQ of a bug. They're going to come after me and say that I'm being racial on this and everything else. No, I don't care if it was 3 white kids. It's a heinous crime, and it should be mentioned who they are and what they are. I am sick and tired of the news media not putting out the facts. By just saying 3 local juveniles, that doesn't tell the story.
No. And in this story that I'm particularly reading, and it's actually off of NBC News, one of the mothers of the teens who was identified, she said, you know what, if my child was involved, he needs to be prosecuted and he needs to be punished for his crime.
Absolutely. Now, I found that sentence I was looking for regarding the dogs. The detective in charge of this investigation said that in reviewing the suspects' Facebook pages, now these kids had computers and Facebook and everything else. In reviewing the suspect Facebook pages, it appeared they were keeping a log indicating an animal also may have been killed earlier that day or the day before. I'm fed up with this kind of garbage.
We've got Al on the phone.
All right. Thank you, Gina. Good morning, Al. You're on the phone.
Good morning, Jeb.
Yes, sir.
I know some people who needs an attitude adjustment. There's a whole bunch of them. You know who they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, another thing, this is going on, and Jeb, mark my word for it, that shooter down in Fort Hood, he's going to get off. I'll tell you why. You've got a woman judge that I don't think is qualified to be sitting in that bench. on a military justice, not the way she's doing. She's refusing to let the prosecutors bring in evidence to convict that man, so he's going to walk because of a judge.
Did you hear the hypocrisy of this trial has gone to new low limits, as a matter of fact, being that he is operating the defense as his own attorney. This is how stupid this thing is going to be today. In court, he, Nidal Hasan, Muslim terrorist killer, is going to ask himself questions and then answer the questions.
That's what I said. She's obstructing justice as far as I'm concerned, and I can't figure out why that stupid prosecutor didn't have her excused. He had the right to call in 3 or 4 officers to please excuse her, and they would have done it. But no, they're dragging their feet, and he's going to get off.
I'm so concerned about this for the victims, their families, and the ones that were wounded. It's been just nothing but total mental anguish having to relive and go through this again while this absolute vermin, that's what he is, vermin, is sitting there in a chair, knowing, everybody knows that he's a Muslim terrorist killer. Everybody knows through the facts that have been presented that just hours and days before this shooting, he was talking to other people with Al-Qaeda. It was a terrorist act, and our own government is so blind, naive, and stupid that they're calling it workplace violence.
Yeah, then they call it justice, and then victims, survivors, they don't get diddly squat because it was a workplace violence. That's a bunch of horse stucky, Mr. Obama. Change your mind and give them people what they got coming. I
agree. Al, very well stated. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to take a break for a commercial, but I want to ask you a question. In this age of political correctness, and I want Gina to weigh in on this too, in this age of political correctness, I want you to just answer this. Why? Why are we being so careful in the local papers, the radio and television, to not mention race and have anything affiliated with race in a crime? 3 juveniles. That's all it says in this story, 3 juveniles. And then it turns out, yes, they were black. But now we've noticed many, many times in the paper, many, many times on other radio broadcasts and also television, well, 3 suspects. That's all it says is 3 suspects. And not giving the public enough awareness or information as to ascertaining, getting clues and evidence and the potential perpetrators of the crime so they can be arrested. We have become so politically correct that we're now endangering everyone. This is total stupidity. These were 3 black teens, and that's what they are, and that's what I'll call them. Box Elder County Fair and Golden Spike Rodeo, Blue Jeans and Country Dreams, all this week, and tonight, the big Bulls, Broncs, and Barrels. Oh, it is going to be great. They've got even wild cow saddling and riding, and it's going to be just outstanding, a lot of fun. And then tomorrow night through Saturday, the great big Golden Spike Rodeo. It's going to be the best of pro rodeo with all the nation's best top pro cowboys coming in. All of this and more, including all the fair events, everything you can enjoy at the Box Elder County Fair and Golden Spike Rodeo, Blue Jeans and Country Dreams, just down the road in Tremont, Utah. This story is just absolutely so repulsive, to the point where this young man, Chris Lane, was an Australian national, and he was attending East Central University in Ada, Oklahoma, and he was a baseball player. He was staying with his girlfriend's parents. And such a horrendous crime. He had just, I believe, taken her out for lunch, and she had some shopping or whatever to do, and he said, I want to go out jogging, keep the old legs in shape. And so he goes down the road, and these 3 black punks, worthless punks, shoot him because they're bored. Ladies and gentlemen, what is our society turning into? And don't give me this, oh, you're playing the race card. You're damn right I am. Because look at what happened in the Zimmerman and Martin trial. And everybody stood up and said that Trayvon, oh, that poor boy, he was a punk. He'd been in trouble before. He'd had marijuana charges and everything else. Don't give me this that he was such a sainted little angel. And let's start calling it what it was. Zimmerman was Hispanic. Martin was black. These 3 black punks murdered in cold blood this young man jogging down the road. Gina, quickly, if you would, please.
Oh, I'm in complete agreement with you. And to go back to what you said about, why the media maybe didn't initially say what race they were from. And this is just, I'm just taking a stab in the dark here. Maybe it's because that is the prominent race of that particular community.
In that area, and I will say this, that there is in Duncan and around that area, Oklahoma City, etc., there is a very, very high rate of black population. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so that was one of my questions. And another thing is that, and I was talking about this with my boyfriend yesterday, and we were talking about the desensitization of our kids these days. And I kind of equated it to a video game.
Oh, yeah.
Do they not realize that when you shoot somebody and they die, they don't get a regenerated life? You don't have 5 extra lives in store for you at the bottom of the screen.
Well,
we only get one in this go round. We have one.
Yeah, and look at the Colorado movie shooter. I mean, this kid was absolutely hooked 24/7, 365 on all these video games and everything else. And it's not just him, it's been others. And I honestly think that they are the purveyors of sin, evil, and doom and death in this country as far as giving kids the opportunity to think life is so cheap.
Life is not cheap, and life is not a video game. Once you are dead and once you get shot and you're lucky enough to live, hey, you're lucky enough to live, but once you get shot and you die, people don't come back. It's not a video game.
Look at it this way. How old is Kennedy? He's 6, right?
6.
6 years old.
Yeah.
And this one boy was only 9 years older than your son, and he absolutely has ruined his life and other people's lives because he was sitting on a porch doing nothing but being bored on a summer afternoon, and he goes with his 3 friends and they shoot a jogger for something to do. I mean, I can't even fathom the mindset.
I can't even fathom the mindset either. And for me as a mom, and just the way the media is, and I'm just going to blanket this out there, the way the media is, and the blood, guts, and gore, and all of the violence that is portrayed on said media, I don't want my son to see. I'm greatly affected by horror movies. I don't watch. And it was Jaws that actually did it for me.
Oh, boy.
Seriously. And so I do not watch horror flicks. I do not go to the movies and watch, the blood, guts, and gore. I don't do movies as far as like zombie flicks and things like that. I don't do those because I have an impressionable mind, and I will dream about that stuff.
I agree.
I want my son to be sensitive like that. I want him to know that if something bad happens and somebody gets shot, 9 times out of 10 they're going to die, and this is not a video game. Life is not a video game. Now, if he wants to play a video game, he can play like Candy Crush, or he can play Guitar Hero, or he can play like a football game.
Yeah.
But you're not going to see my son play a game where there's guns, shooting,
God bless you for being that kind
No.
of a responsible parent. And I think every one of those films that are in a home, a video game, should be taken out and not thrown in the trash, should be burned first. I'm absolutely appalled. I got to do a break here. I'm running late. Gina told you about her what? Oh, no, she hasn't told me about her experience with Jaws. We'll get it later. I'll tell you about my experience with the movie Jaws a little bit later. Okay. And it does need some parental guidance. Children should be out of the room. Anyway, let's not forget Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West, 203 South of Hebron, 438-8730 at Jim McCall's Farm. They've got all the grease gun supplies, Lincoln cordless grease guns. You can have fun with those. And window washing for all the trucks for harvest. Bubba Ropes. They got it all. Bubba Ropes, I'll tell you. Clean your air filters, save you money. My goodness, call Travel Lube Supply, 438-8730. It is time now for the Capital Press Ag Minute, brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley, 678-2321.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
A court has allowed farm groups that support the U.S. Department of Agriculture's mandatory country of origin meat labeling regulations to intervene in a lawsuit challenging the rules. The U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. granted a motion filed by the U.S. Cattlemen's Association, the National Farmers Union, the American Sheep Industry Association, and the Consumer Federation of America, The groups argue the court should consider the opinion of livestock producers who back the regulation. Opponents filed their lawsuit July 8th, asserting the rules violated the U.S. Constitution by compelling speech, that it exceeds the scope of statutory mandate, and that it's arbitrary and capricious because it imposes vast burdens on the industry with little benefit.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West's Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Oh my goodness, Pacific Steel and Recycling. They can help you recycle. That's right, they can make it easy to recycle and also purchase metal from you. Stop in and visit with them and they'll tell you exactly what they can do for you. These are wonderfully nice people at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley, 678-2321. You get a hold of them today. You know what bothers me about this whole story of these three black teens that just wantonly picked up a gun and decided, well, we're bored, we're going to go out and kill someone? And they did? Pardon me?
Where'd they get the gun?
You know, that hasn't been determined yet, and they still, I understand, have not found that weapon. They're still looking for it, according to the stories that I have here. But now let me just pose this out to everybody in the audience. There's going to be a bleeding heart liberal charge for these three punks. There's going to be, oh, well, they're just kids and they're juveniles, and there's going to be a big push not to punish or admonish them the way they should be treated. They should be treated as hard, cold-nosed killers, and they, I think, should have the death penalty. I have no use for these kind of people.
I kind of agree. Now, here was my question, and I didn't do my research on it. Does Oklahoma uphold the death penalty?
You know, I believe they have the death penalty, but it has not been utilized. I do not have these in front of me, but I remember from a story that we did earlier in February, I think that they have a death row that has not had any injections or anything for, I'm going to say 5 years, but if you could do some research on that, I'd appreciate it.
I'm working on that right now.
Okay, now, but here's the thing. They are going to have this case minimized. This case is going to be minimized because they are under 18 years of age. Now, here is a person by the name of Chris Lane, an Australian national, going to school here in the United States, behaving in an adult fashion, doing everything according to the law, getting his education, playing on the college baseball team. But yet what's prominent about this whole story will be, unfortunately, these three black teenagers. Nothing about really the devastation and the despair and the sorrow about the family of Chris Lane, but it'll be about these three black teenagers. And I will be willing to bet that if anything is said or done by Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, or even Obama, it will be on behalf of the three black teenagers and saying that the environment and their family situation and their lack of having certain things played into what they did. I know there's going to be a crusting over, if you will, of this crime, and I think that's an outrage. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Here's something to scratch your head on. What if neither one of or none of the three admit to doing the shooting? Where are we going to go from there?
Well, I think there's almost irrefutable evidence that they did the shooting. They were very uncooperative with detectives and police when they were confronted in a church parking lot, of all places. And I think they also have another person that's going to go with information to the state in regards to, he was called in later and he knew of the crime, and I think he's going to give all the information to the police necessary. I don't think pointing the finger at these three people and saying, yes, they definitely were the trigger shooters, I don't think that's going to be a problem. But I think where the problem comes in, Keith, is the sympathy from the black community, the sympathy from the Sharptons and the Jacksons, and even Obama. I think that's going to play a big part in how this plays out in the court system.
Well, if we'd given these kids a job like we're supposed to in the liberal world, then we wouldn't have this problem, right?
Yeah, but you're saying give them a $15 an hour flipping burgers so they could go out and buy more guns. I'm so fed up with this kind of callousness in our society that life doesn't mean anything. This is such a horrendous story that I'm going to keep on top of this until I find out what's settled on it.
Well, you know, you can remember when you were a kid, and if you folks didn't keep you busy, and I know they did because you turned out well. But had they not, you'd have got into some mischief, wouldn't you?
Well, absolutely. Any child is capable of getting into mischief with idle hands. There's no question in my mind, Keith. But wait a minute. At 15, 16, and 17, think back, my friend. Think back. You didn't sit on a front porch stoop and say to yourself, boy, I'm bored, I'm going to go kill somebody.
No, that's true. But you think like this mother that says, go ahead and prosecute him. What kind of mother was she before this?
Yeah.
I mean, was she a disciplinarian, or was she just go with the flow?
I'm almost to the point where I would advocate in a case like this, and I know I'll take some of the outrage from the people in the audience on this, but I'm almost an advocate where they're minors. I think the parents should be hauled into jail with them, or I should say hauled into court and prosecuted for being poor, irresponsible, lousy parents.
That's exactly what I was getting at. It begins at home.
Absolutely. Keith, God bless you, man. I appreciate your call. Hey, I noticed on my cell phone you tried to call me. Call me after the program. I've been having trouble with my phone. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. JB's 136 East 5th North in Burley, and our next lunch munch will be next Thursday, the 29th, and we're looking forward to having you be there with us at JB's at 11:30. You can stop in anytime for breakfast. Oh, what a delicious breakfast buffet. Makes my mouth water. I'm drooling. And, of course, luncheon special. Steaks, it's all there with the wonderful staff, and Daniel heads up everybody over there at JB's. You're going to love it. JB's in Burley, 136 East 5th North, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Besides defending these juveniles, I think the liberals will also take this opportunity to say, see what guns do? See what free access to guns does?
Doug, yeah, there might be a twist that way. I agree with you. The liberals will pick up on every aspect of this story and try to twist it away from what it actually was. 3 bored, black punks that deserve to have the rest of their life in bars or even the electric chair for acting in such a callous manner to take a young man's life for nothing more than just not having anything else to do.
The other thing I think the liberals are really good at doing is taking something that you just said. You talked about these being poor, irresponsible parents, or a mother in this case. They'll take that terminology you just used and say, Zeb, why are you jumping over poor people?
Yeah.
They'll take your words out of context.
That's exactly right. I agree with you. Only let me throw this back at you.
Okay.
And I'm going to just sit here and know that I'm going to get repercussions and ramifications for what I'm about to say, but so be it.
Raise it carefully.
I'm not going to. I'm never careful on this program. I'm blunt and I'm honest, and I'm not going to hedge around I'm not going to be a dog burying a bone someplace and forget where I put it. I'm going to just say this. I think there is a very large percentage of poor or indigent or people that lack things. I think a large percentage of those people are of their own volition because they're too damn lazy to get up and make their situation better.
I couldn't agree more with that statement. I see it every day, even here in Idaho. I am people of that ilk.
I am fed up with the crybaby attitude of I didn't get enough from my food stamps, I didn't get enough cheese at the free cheese giveaway, I didn't get, but never do I hear these people get on the news. And do I ever hear them say that I'm trying to pull myself up by my bootstraps and further myself with getting a better education, going out and getting a better job and making something out of my life other than being a leech on society.
That's right. A lot of these people do not have jobs.
That's exactly right.
Leeching off the rest.
Nor do they want jobs.
why should they? The government's giving them everything. That's how they look at it.
That's exactly right. Now, I know there's those in the audience right now that are going, oh my goodness, I can't stand that man for what he said. That's fine, but I'm telling you, there are people that deserve welfare. There are people that deserve a helping hand, to a point. But I am sick and tired of looking at the gratuities that are given to these people on a continual 365-day-a-year basis.
One more thing, Zeb, before I go. Your Mexican friend had come over and told you what the Spanish name for the bird was.
Yeah.
Did he tell you what it means, the direct literal translation is?
A bird, I think, I want to get this right, something about a bird that sucks the pollen out of the roses.
Literally, it means rose sucker.
That's it.
Like
that's what he said.
Chupacabra means goat sucker.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah. Yep. I can't come up with the pronunciation as nearly great as he did, but you're right. Thank you. Appreciate your call. Thanks much.
Bye.
God bless. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Zeb, I don't know if you've heard about this incident in Rhodes, Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. Rhodes, Michigan, where a young 8-year-old boy was raped by his teacher.
Oh, my goodness.
And the city and the school board, I don't know the whole story. Maybe you could do some research on it, but they were trying to allow this teacher to stay and keep his job.
Oh, my
And they were
Lord.
trying to pressure these people, that the parents of the son, to do so. And you're going... I mean, you say to yourself, are we living in America? I mean, seriously. And you know, you used to think Michigan was somewhat, you know, Midwestern and, you know, values like us. And maybe some of the, I don't know, Zeb, it's insanity.
This is, you know, that's the best way to sum it up. This is complete insanity. That teacher should have been absolutely, and I don't care who's offended by this, that teacher should have been grabbed and absolutely beaten within an inch of his life. And when he healed up at the hospital, they should have fired him and made sure that he was put on a desert island someplace with nothing but snakes and alligators. I am fed up with the mamby-pamby attitude in this country, the court system and the liberals and everything else. I want to see some justice done. This young man that was shot in the back, Chris Lane, doing nothing but out jogging, enjoying an afternoon, playing baseball for a university, staying with his girlfriend's parents while he's here in the United States. There has to be justice, and I want these 3 black punks put to death or put behind bars where they'll never have a chance at parole.
Well, this is the thing. This administration has perpetuated this attitude. And it's just like Oprah. And she's, you know, the assumption that this store, you know, the story about her in Switzerland and telling her she couldn't afford the bag, and the lady was embarrassed that the bag was $38,000. She says, I don't even want to show anybody the bag. It isn't worth $38,000. That's in essence what it turned out to be. It had nothing to do with her being black.
That's right.
But she assumed that.
You know,
and this kind of attitude that is perpetuated and by the president to whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Well, Randy, to sum it up like this, we are being taught every day through political correctness as to what we can say and what we can't say, or the PC police will come after you. The PC police will come after me. But you know something? I'm 65 years old, Randy. And I'm going to call it like it is. If it's a ball, I'm going to call it a ball. If it's a strike, I'm going to call it a strike. I find this to be a heinous murder. That's all it is a heinous, cold-blooded murder. I'm going to tell the people the color of their skin. I'm going to tell the people who was involved. I'm going to tell the people the facts. And I'm not going to try to be politically correct. It absolutely merits the truth.
Yes, it does.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zed. It appears to me that there's a war against the white people now, and it's really beginning to hit home. And boy, I'll tell you, it's turning into a serious situation because of what we got going on in Washington, D.C.
I agree with you. This is the most divisive. And write this down, liberal Democrats listening on the radio. You like to take notes and then chastise me later. Write this down. This absolutely is political correctness run amok because of a very liberal, left-wing socialist president and his ideologies that have divided this country worse than ever before. And I'll stand behind that statement.
It seems like we've elected a member of the Muslim Brotherhood up there for 8 years. I don't know how you feel about that, but after listening to Frosty yesterday, he is correct.
Well, my feelings about Obama are such that I have absolutely all negatives. All negatives. I don't like the man. I've never liked the man since he was a senator in Illinois. I don't trust the man. I don't trust his ideology. I don't trust what he's doing to the fabric and the backbone of this country, and also how he's deteriorating the value of our Constitution. I don't like Barack Hussein Obama. Never have, never will, and can't wait for him to move out of the White House.
And I hope we don't get Hillary. What difference does it make now, Clinton, in there? Because we'll have another 4 or 8 years of the same thing.
I'm tending to agree with you. Tony, thank you for your call. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
I'll have more calls on this. I'm just so frustrated about the lack of appreciation, respect, and value of a human life. To just drive up behind the man and shoot him in the back and drive off and leave his body laying on the roadway, twitching, gasping for air, and dying.
Yeah.
I mean, Gina, I've seen some people die. It's something that it just brings tears to my eyes. And to think that you can be this cold and calloused and get in a car, drive up behind somebody, and just shoot them in the back because of boredom. Nobody with any sanity can tell me that these 3 people deserve to live.
No, they don't. And by the way, I just looked it up. Oklahoma is one of the leaders in capital punishment.
Yeah. I've got to do a weather forecast, then we'll take another call.
You've got a phone call waiting for you.
Okay, thank you. Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls, 737-9900 with my buddy Reese Widmeyer. Absolutely the great indoors for those who love the great outdoors. They've got all your equipment. Quality gear at Sportsman's Warehouse. They only carry the top quality products for serious outdoor enthusiasts at Sportsman's Warehouse, Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin. Here now, Michael Rogers with a weather update.
Hello, everybody. Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. Guess what? It's going to be cool today. When I'm talking about cool, I'm talking about it's not going to be hot. All right, so our high today versus yesterday is somewhere in the 90s. We're going to look the top out to around about 88, 63 for the overnight low. Thunderstorms in the forecast for tomorrow. Back up to the low 90s for the daytime high. And enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, the only weather you got.
Friendly experts, quality gear, and down-home attitude always with my buddy and his staff, Reese Widmeyer, at Sportsman's Warehouse in Twin Falls. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I would like to comment on the mother's attitude. Is it very possible that she was filled up to the very top of her head with that kid and she could not do anything more with him, turn him over to court?
Yeah. Tough love, is that what you're saying?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Helen, from a mother's standpoint, and you are a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, tell us a little bit, in your opinion, make it short because I've got other calls waiting, but what about parental guidance and parental responsibility? I just don't think enough is put on the parents.
Well, that is true, too, but with so many of the blacks, there's only the mother in the home. I mean, she can only go so far.
Okay, but then let me interrupt you there. I know a lot of great athletes, black athletes, that will turn around at an award ceremony and thank their mother for being such a dominant person in their life when their dad left, and thank their mother for keeping them on the straight and narrow. So I can't buy that excuse.
Well, there is excuses and there is excuses, but there's all that you can do sometime as a mother, and you can't do any more. It takes a man's hand.
I agree. Helen, God bless you for your call this morning. Thank you very much.
Have
Thank you.
one.
You know, this is a story that I know that the news media will try to sweep under the rug. Why? Because of the nature of the story. If it were, mark my words, 3 white teenagers that had done this to a black man, it would be on every single media outlet 24/7, 365 for as long as this story holds any weight as far as being newsworthy. But now, turn on the different media today. And if it wouldn't have been for my dear friend Randy Gibbons and a couple others alerting me about this story in Duncan, Oklahoma, I hadn't seen it on the other media. And nobody purveys the other media as much as I do to take notes and find out what's going on or not going on. This is absolutely so pathetic. I'm going to keep following this story. I know some dear friends back in Duncan that are in the horse business that live not very far at all from where this crime took place, and I'm going to ask them their indulgence to make sure I keep getting all the information. I hear your mic on.
Yeah. I was just going to say that, you know, we need to let the media know, even though you and I are the media to a certain extent, that we want coverage on this, that this story is important. And I hate to make this analogy, but it's true within the newsroom. If it bleeds, it leads. And this story needs to lead all across the board, just like the Trayvon Martin case. We need to make sure that this story is covered by the media because they're going to air what the viewers want to see.
That's right. But, you know, when I looked through all of this and I came down to that sentence, I want to go back to something I mentioned a little bit ago. Okay. That one of the detectives said that in reviewing the suspect's Facebook pages, it appeared they were keeping a log indicating that an animal, and then they had in parentheses a dog, also may have been killed earlier that day or the day before. Now, doesn't that kind of just tell you how cold and calloused and calculating these punks were, that they would blatantly put it on a Facebook page that they've been going around shooting other things and beings?
It means to me, and it tells me that they have no value for life, any sort of life whatsoever, and obviously they don't value their own.
What have they got to look forward to? Nothing. I mean, really, when you think about it, 15, 16, and 17, I absolutely would applaud the court system if, A, they would get the death penalty, and I don't care if they're juveniles, they did not act in a juvenile fashion. B, if they don't get the death penalty, they should get life in prison, buried below ground in a tomb that they can never see daylight again because of the heinous crime that they committed. And C, I think they should review the parents and find out if there's other children in the homes, other children in those homes that might take that same path of crime because of the dereliction of duty from the parents. Do you agree with that or not?
I do agree with that, and I'm sitting here reading the Oklahoma state law, and what these kids did, it totally qualifies for the first-degree murder charge, which then totally qualifies them for the death penalty. It really does, and I honestly, and I hate to say this because they're young kids, but you know what? They deserve it. They deserve it.
Absolutely, and 2 of the 3, and I'm sure you read this in the story, police had problems with prior to this shooting. So, I mean, they were no strangers to the police blotters.
No, they weren't, and it's a very, very sad case of how our youth can be steered in the wrong direction for whatever reason it may be, but everybody needs to learn how to value life, and these kids don't, so obviously that honestly, they deserve the death penalty.
Stop right there, though, and think about what you just said. And I know, and I can remember, and you can too, what you were doing at 15, 16, and 17, okay? Mm-hmm. I was playing a lot of summer league baseball during the course of the summer when I was 15, 16, and 17. I was also involved in the swimming team. I traveled a lot around the state of Wisconsin to various swimming meets in the 200 and the 400-yard freestyle. Mm-hmm. I was involved with my dad standing over me with his great big German Hulk saying, you will do these chores and they will get done now. And there was, you talk about parental guidance and advice. Oh, yeah, big time. I did things, but they were always supervised. And I just think supervision is lacking in these cases.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, when I was 15, 16, 17, I was highly active in my school. I was a babysitter during the summertime. I babysat so I could go out and do my boat racing. That was my huge thing. I didn't have any spare time. And then granted, I lived in a super, super small town where everybody knew everybody. But still, I mean, my parents made sure that I was always active in doing something, or I made sure that I was always active in doing something.
There you go. I've got to pay some bills, and Gina, thank you for all your help on this. I appreciate it. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and they have a promise for you. They've got the best tire value promise in the industry. Free peace of mind tire protection, free lifetime tire and mileage care, free flat repairs, free tire rotations, free tire rebalancing, free air checks, free brake and alignment checks. Boy, I'm telling you, that means a lot. That means a lot. They are committed to the products they sell and to your driving safety. Let me tell you, you stop in and see any one of the 7 today. Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Lane and Rupert, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy, the old Seahawk fan on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Next hour, we're going to be talking to a very dear friend, and I mean that, Doug Johnson, and he's got quite a few things on his blog I want to talk about, one of them being where the liberal left has said that having health care is a right. A right? Are you kidding me? I have read the Constitution, not bragging, but probably more than most. I didn't see anything in there that health care was a right for its citizens here in the United States of America. We're going to talk about that, and then also I'm going to try towards the end of the half hour with Doug, we're going to maybe touch on this case just a little bit more and see what his thoughts are. Let's see, what else have I got here real quick? Let's see. I had something else as a news note that I needed to mention, but yours truly dropped it on the floor, and I can't read it from long distance without my bifocals, and I don't have those. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Don't go away. Oh, welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch. Oh, my goodness. Cooler out there. Much, much more comfortable out there this morning. Little clouds, and we're looking at possibility of some rain later on, and boy, we sure need it. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, along with some of our great advertisers, including, of course, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always sure to disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, thank you very much, Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. And don't forget, they've got dumpsters in various sizes. If you're cleaning up and throwing out, there you go. I mean, they've got all the dumpsters. And believe me, too, for your company parties and your family reunions, if you're going to have a big gathering, they've got summer rentals of all the restrooms and standalone hand wash stations. Wow, they are always at your disposal, along with getting on their route service to get rid of their garbage. Call them 734-6969. Nobody does it better. Always at your disposal, Western Waste Services. Also, ladies and gentlemen, real fast, I want to remind everybody about our dear, dear friends that really are so supportive of you and your families in a time of need, and that's Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636, with the owner and manager, Joel Heward, and his very, very professional staff. As I said many, many times, locally owned and operated, and their staff always with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please get a hold of them today and find out about pre-planning for funerals, and that's at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. And real quick, don't forget, it's in full swing in Tremont, Utah, the Box Elder County Fair and Golden Spike Rodeo, Blue Jeans and Country Dreams. Man, it's going to be ripping a lot of fun. Tonight's the Big Bulls, Broncs, and Barrels, starting at 8 p.m. p.m. And then tomorrow night through Saturday, PRCA rodeo action at the Golden Spike Pro Rodeo. It is going to be great. Don't miss it. Come on down to Tremont in Utah, to the Box Elder County Fair and Golden Spike Rodeo. Once again in Tremont in Utah, blue jeans and country dreams. Well, right now we're going to say hello to an old friend of ours with the Horse Sense blog, Mr. Doug Johnson. How are you this morning, my friend?
Well, I'm good, Zeb. How are things in Idaho?
Well, Doug, there's quite a few things that, quite frankly, I'm more than upset about, and I wanted to talk to you about this morning. I know you wanted to talk about a subject, and I want to start off with that, to be fair, that you had in your blog about health care being a right. That has been one of my pet peeves for a long, long time, ever since Obamacare threatened to come into our lives and our homes. And I'm not being boastful. I said this last hour, but I think I've read the Constitution perhaps more than most. I have never seen anything in the Constitution that says health care is a right provided to me by the Constitution and or our government.
Well, you're absolutely right. We have to remember this goes back a long time. I mean, even back when Bill Clinton was first coming into office and Hillary was trying to push nationalized health care, they were promoting the same concept. The Democrats do this, the progressives do this. The idea is to create so many things that people think are a right that then they feel shortchanged when they don't get it. And so the Democrats, the progressives, use this to try and turn people against the conservatives, saying, see, they're not giving you what's fair, and we will see to it you get it, and that's how they win their votes. And this is a very common tactic, and Obama is using it now to try and keep Obamacare sold, because he certainly does not want to have it defunded. Personally, I don't think it will be. I think it's going to go through and be fully implemented, but he certainly is being dishonest and disingenuous with the American people in his presentation.
Okay, now you said something there that I think merits a little bit more discussion. You said, I think that it will go through. You don't think that it'll be defunded. Are you saying, without really saying it, that you have lost your respect for the Republicans not having the backbone to stand up and say, no, this is not going to be funded, we're going to stand up and fight against it?
Absolutely. I lost the respect for the Republican Party years ago. There are very few who are good, strong people. We see it consistently nationally. Colorado, where I'm at, is one of the worst. Our Republican Party is absolutely in a shambles because they've totally sold out to the left. And we see it on a national level. There's very little leadership, very little backbone or spine to stand up on issues. There's a few, but not many. And this is where we as the voters have an obligation to stand up and get behind those people so that our politicians fear us enough to do what we tell them and not do what they choose.
Your blog, and by the way, Doug, pardon me for saying, interrupting you here, but in about 4 minutes I have a very, very important statement that has to be read on the air this morning, so bear with me if I break in just a moment. But you are very, very emphatic, and it's very well stated in your blog about what rights we have by being born into this great land of America. And the rest is a little bit on a tangency that I can't agree with. Go ahead and explain that a little bit.
Okay, well, one of the problems, I think, is that a lot of Americans really don't understand our Constitution. They don't understand our rights, and that America is unique. America is unique because it is the only nation in world history that has ever acknowledged and put into law what our human rights are. And it recognizes the three basic human rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And in my blog, I define those things. Of course, life, we all know, is the right to live, and I state the fact that no human has the right to determine someone else's length of life. And I use the example that that's why abortion is wrong. You're taking a human life. Liberty, freedom, once again, God grants freedom. It's not man's right to take freedom away from another man. And the third right, pursuit of happiness, I go into much lengthier definition because most people have no understanding of what that means. They think it means the right to live your life the way you choose, and that is not at all what was meant by the founders, because the term happiness, that concept, was totally different back in the founding of our nation than it is today. Happiness at that time meant living a life and pursuing a life of virtue, because only true happiness came when you lived a virtuous life. So we have the right to pursue a virtuous life. within that comes the right to freedom of religion and freedom of beliefs, things like that. But I think those are important, that we understand those are human rights. All other rights we have might be given to us as legal rights. So, for example, Obamacare was passed as a law. Legally, it is a legal right we have. So we could claim it as a legal right and say, I as a citizen have a right to it, but I cannot say as a human being born to this earth I have a right to it.
Absolutely. Doug, I must interrupt right now because we have a very, very important message that has to be read at this time during this program, and I want the attention of all of the Cassia County schools and parents and businesses in this area to pay very close attention to what I'm going to say. At approximately 9 a.m. this morning, Cassia County emergency crews responded to Burley High School as an exercise designed by the Bureau of Homeland Security in conjunction with other state emergency agencies. It is a drill. This event is being treated as a real-life situation and will allow state and local teams to learn and improve school safety and security statewide. There are no students involved. A sweep of the building and campus was made prior to the exercise. No real weapons were used as a part of the drill. Every precaution was taken to ensure the safety of individuals involved in the drill as well as the public. A press conference will be broadcast from the campus of Burley High School at 11 a.m. today. The governor and other state officials will address the issues of school safety around the state and use Cassia County's participation to increase awareness statewide. In a coordinated effort with state and local agencies, this exercise is a way to train and improve response teams. Ladies and gentlemen, it is and it was a drill only. Doug, I'm sorry for the interruption. Thank you very much. Doug, one of the...
Okay, Zeb, we have to take care of the important public service announcements.
Absolutely. One of the things that I wanted to comment on is that the liberal left today, and you hear it every day, you do, I do, everybody that is of conservative nature hears this. We have the right to happiness. That means that the government should provide us a boat with a great big Mercury motor or a yacht or a camper or a Winnebago or whatever. We all have the right to happiness. It doesn't mean that at all. You can, like you said very capably in your blog, the right to pursue virtue or the right to pursue our own happiness and our family's happiness.
Well, absolutely, and I think this is where we miss the point. And what is interesting to me about the use of the term pursuit of happiness, which once again I defined in my blog as pursuit of virtue, is the founders understood that if we didn't do that, that there would be a lapse in the strength of our nation, because our nation is founded on principles that are only based on a religious and moral people. Our Constitution will not work for a people that are not religious and moral. And so it really ties in so well with who we are as a nation and what we were created to be. Our founders' concepts are so timeless. And this is why I get so tired of people on the left saying that the Constitution should change with time. It was not written to be changed. It was written with the idea in mind that it was timeless, and it absolutely is.
You know, I liked what you just said right there, and I'd like you to elaborate on it. I am absolutely incensed, mad, teed off when I hear these people say, oh, well, the Constitution's a living document. We can go and change this and rewrite that and restructure that for today's times. No! Leave it alone. Your thoughts. Go ahead and elaborate.
Well, absolutely no. And this is where we fall into the trap of saying, well, times change, so things change, and our society changes, so this document should change. Our founders understood what tyrannical government was. They were fleeing. They were fighting to get away from a tyrannical government and trying to protect us long term. And I'm going to take a little bit of a turn here, Zeb, because I think this is really important, and I wanted to bring this out today. We look around, and those of us who write or speak to these issues like you and I do, and be it a national talk show or a local talk show somewhere in the country, or people who write articles or blogs or whatever, we consistently opine about the America that should be, and We complain about situations that happen, and we talk about we should take a stand. You know, you and I spoke last week about the situation with the rodeo clown and the screams and cries of racism that go on and all this and that. And we all do the same thing. We complain about it, and we say we should take a stand, and we should do this, and we should do that. And we really accomplish little with this. And as I look across this country, and I thought about this a lot this past week, we see that very few people in positions like ours who are speaking to the public are giving solutions. We have had a few people try, some big names. Glenn Beck, like him or not, has done some things, had some rallies and said we need to restore honor and things like that. But there's been no step-by-step process laid out of how we save this nation. Even in my book, No Tomorrows, I tell how we save it, but I don't give a step-by-step process. That wasn't my purpose, and I don't think I have the credentials or the knowledge to go as far as a person needs to in some of those answers. But I want to say this, and if your listeners are not familiar with it, they need to become familiar. One of the national talk show hosts, the third most popular, is a constitutional attorney named Mark Levin. And he does legal work. He worked in the Reagan administration's Justice Department. Brilliant constitutional lawyer. He has a new book out called The Liberty Amendments. And in this book, he gives the solution to America of how we save this nation in a step-by-step process by using the states to go forward and move to amend our Constitution without having to wait for Congress to fix things. And it is a brilliant work and a work that all Americans need to read. And one of the points I love about it is he says, these are my ideas. Certainly what the amendments that I'm suggesting are could be changed or modified, but these are suggestions of how we bring our country back to the constitutional republic it was founded to be. And I have to say this because it's so important that we as citizens understand there is a path we can follow to save this nation, but we need to get involved and do it.
You know, what you just said, and while you were sitting there saying it, it triggered in my mind the statement of Nancy Pelosi regarding Obamacare. Well, we've got to pass the bill, and then we'll read it later and find out what's in it. That's exactly the problem in this nation today. Instead of coming up with concrete answers to the various problems and resolutions and finding out how it's going to fit or if it's not going to fit, the idiocy of government is to go ahead and pass a 2,000-plus page bill and then say we're going to read it later and find out where all the hidden pork is. You just touched on what I think is the whole problem in Washington today.
It absolutely is, and it's very clear we cannot easily get control of Washington back unless we use the power that our founders put in the Constitution, which is that the states are the ones who created the federal government. The states have the power over the federal government, and we must use that. And Levin lays this out so well. If anybody watched Fox News late last week, I think it was Friday, but over the weekend they replayed it numerous times, Hannity's show, he had Levin on with an audience talking about this very thing. You might want to go to foxnews.com website, look up Hannity's show, and I'm sure the video of that is probably on there. But it was a brilliant, brilliant show, and everything I don't even have the book yet, but everything I've read about it, the excerpts I read are absolutely stunning, and they truly give solutions of how we, as Americans, can go through a process to bring this nation back to what it needs to be.
We have a caller with a question, and we are short on time. Caller, go ahead, please, quickly.
Yes, I wanted to know what your guest's opinion would be on Mark Levin's Liberty Amendments. I'll listen off the air.
Okay, good point. Thank you. Go ahead, Doug, if you would.
Well, and that's the book I was just talking about. From what I can tell so far, it is a brilliant work, and what I love about it is he shows us how, even though it's a long, hard process, how we as a nation can, within our states, start to turn our states to taking the actions they need to take control back of our federal government. And it's just something that I think is great homework, I'll call it, for all of us to do, to read this book, understand it, and then start to put it into action.
Doug, I've got to mention quickly that I was absolutely appalled last night watching the news, taking notes for my program, that the Obama administration and funds for Obamacare have produced a new video, and a new video geared towards younger people that creates a contest to where they will win prizes and or cash if they go out and sign up for Obamacare. Aren't you appalled as to the carnivalistic attitude that this thing has taken on?
Well, absolutely. This entire administration and the left have determined that making people feel they can have goodies Such things as you just talked about, things like the phones we heard they gave away that were called Obama phones, things like this. That this is what government is for. And once again, we get down to what people said during the last election. How do you beat Santa Claus? Obama is giving away, or at least making promises to give away all these things, and how do you beat that? And the only way we beat that is through education and making people understand what's good for America. I had an insurance adjuster at my home yesterday. We had severe damage to our roof and have to have it replaced. And when the adjuster and I were talking, she told me how people so badly abuse insurance companies because they think they have a deep pocket. Much like people think of the government, there's no end to the money. Well, there is, and when you run out of money, you have problems, and that's where our nation's at, and we as citizens have to stop it, but we don't stop it if we don't educate people.
Absolutely. Caller, quickly, your comments, please.
Yes, Glenn Beck has talked about how Texas is slipping into starting to change towards liberalism, believe it or not. And he says they're using the Colorado model that transformed Colorado from a somewhat conservative state to the liberal state. Do you know what he's talking about? No, I know.
Doug, if you would.
Absolutely, and obviously we have a listener who listens regularly, and I'm impressed. There is a book out called The Blueprint that defines it. A few years ago, back in the early 2000s, the Democrats set forth a process to take over Colorado and turn it from red to blue, which they were very successful at. And they wrote a blueprint on how to do it, and it's out in a book called The Blueprint. The subtitle, I think, is The Colorado Model. And you can get that at Amazon or somewhere. There was a series of articles done by some journalists about it, too, but I don't know those right offhand. But they are now using that across the nation, and Texas is their first goal. They want to go over and convert Texas. And I have family who live in Texas have told me they're very concerned because with Rick Perry retiring from the governorship at the end of this term, they're concerned where Texas is going to go because they're seeing things change there that are not positive. Texas is not the stalwart of conservatism that people think it is, and there's great concern about the future of Texas now. And my view is if Texas can fall, we're all in danger.
Real quick, Doug, I'm almost out of time, but I want you to respond to this. I honestly think, and you can tell me I'm wrong on my thinking, I think that the Democratic Party has played the Republican Party like a puppet over Obamacare. And I believe that the Democrats are absolutely responsible because of some really strong and well-versed ways of creating a division in the Republican Party and putting the Ted Cruzes on one side and the Karl Roves on the other as to the funding or not of Obamacare, and they've split the Republican power even more so. I don't think the Republicans can get it back. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you're right, although I would go a step further and say they haven't just split the Republican Party, they have successfully wooed much of the establishment Republican Party, like Karl Rove and John McCain and people like this, over to their side. And this is what's really bad for America. And this is where we, as the voters, once again need to stand up. Real quickly, going back to Mark Levin's book, one of his suggestions is we move Election Day and Tax Day to one day apart. So if you pay your taxes on one day, you vote the next day, you'll be really concerned about how you vote based on what you just paid in taxes. These are the kind of things we need to see happen that will cause Americans to think differently about how they vote.
Absolutely well stated. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're so honored to have Doug Johnson, author of No Tomorrows, and, of course, every week, the Horse Sense blog. Doug, God bless you, and I'll look forward to next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Seb. I look forward to it, too.
God bless. Thank you. Very, very nice man right there, Doug Johnson from Colorado, and we always look forward to his political viewpoints every Wednesday on the program. Don't forget Idaho Lending Group. Oh, my goodness sakes, these are wonderful people serving you at 1182 Eastland Drive North in Twin Falls, making sense with your money. As a borrower, take the time to fully understand all of your loan options that can save you significant amounts of money over the life of your loan. We talked to them about a refinancing of our mortgage, and they saved us literally thousands. Yes, NMLS number 181777, Equal Opportunity Lender, Idaho Lending Group, 1182 Eastland Drive North in Twin Falls, 734-5626. In just a few minutes, we're going to have Benjamin Cole on our program, and looking forward to having him on the show. But before we do, I want to remind you that Lee's Furniture, with their blazing hot summer sale going on, oh my goodness, no down, no interest until 2014. Until 2014? I'm not kidding. They've got the greatest selection of recliners you've ever seen. You got to go in and try one on. I'm serious. They all are going to sit you different, fit you different. Stop in and check it out. They got a fantastic display of recliners. And all the carpeting, I mean, rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls of carpeting and all the flooring, everything you need, all the assorted items. It's all there for you at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Please stop in and see those wonderful people today. Gina, as you know, Gina, I'm just going to quickly ask you to come on the program with me. I know that you'll probably receive some updates on that Cassia County emergency cruise as a drill. We want to emphasize it was a drill, and after 11 o'clock this morning, there will be more in a press conference broadcast from the campus of Burley High School.
Yeah, I've got a call into Jay Heward. I'm not too happy right now. We should have been informed on that a little bit earlier, but, you know, that's just me.
All right, well, this was something that was just handed to me this morning, so I'm glad that we were a part of acknowledging it, and I'm sure you'll have more on it at 11 o'clock this morning.
Yes, we will.
Ladies and gentlemen, in just a minute, Benjamin Cole, but stand by. When you think about life insurance, don't forget health insurance, don't forget retirement planning, don't forget employee benefits, don't forget who? Don't forget what? Cameron and Siemens. That's right. Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, dedicated and responsive to your needs. Always taking care of making sure you are covered. And all you have to do is just call them. 436-4424. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really nice people. And while we're getting everything all set up for our next guest, we're going to have a slight change today. I'm going to do the starving to death here in about another 30 minutes, so stand by for that, because I will be gone tomorrow, and Sharon Hardy Mills and Gina will be filling in for me. Don't forget, Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. They're open Tuesdays through Saturdays. Oh, that's where the fun is sold. They've got, you open the door to that showroom, and you're just going to go, oh, wow, look at this. They've got all the 2014 models showing up daily of all the ATVs, street bikes, dirt bikes, everything. They've got the Can-Am Maverick Max 4-seater in there. Ooh, baby. And out behind, they've got the best service department anywhere, anytime. It's all there for you. Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. That is where the fun is sold. Ladies and gentlemen, on the phone with me right now, we have Benjamin Cole, Director of Communications for the Institute for Energy Research. Good morning, Benjamin. How are you, my friend?
Hey, good morning. Good to talk to you always.
Benjamin, to start things off this morning, I thought maybe I'd touch a little bit on the Mexican situation with their oil. I was not aware that Mexico is able or capable of increasing their private oil production. Tell us a little bit about what that might mean to the overall oil landscape for North America.
Yeah, well, Mexico is rich in oil resources and natural gas. And then, of course, you know that, the Gulf of Mexico, where we know a lot of oil is, they control a huge swath of their offshore oil resources there in the Gulf of Mexico, as well as off the Pacific coast. Basically, what it means is this. For years and years and years, as far back as we know, as far back as the Mexican country has been a country, all mineral resources are owned by the government. It's not uncommon everywhere else in the world. The United States is among places where it's private land ownership, private ownership of resources down to the minerals and up to the sky, as the statement used to go, can belong to private individuals. Mexico's not had that. And part of it has just been, the Mexican government, inefficient bureaucracy, etc. But they're starting to realize that if they're ever going to have a chance of producing the energy that they need right there in Mexico and using their own oil resources, that they're going to have to allow for there to be some private investment and some private ownership of the activities to bring that oil out of the ground. And so there's a real shift going on right now with Mexico. Basically what's happened is they have looked at what's happening to their neighbors to the north, us. They have seen how private corporations using innovative technologies have been able to go in and harvest tremendous amounts of oil reserves. And they're saying, wait a minute, we shouldn't be missing out on this opportunity. Canada's doing it. The United States is doing it. Why is Mexico the only North American country that isn't going after their energy resources? And finally, they're getting in line. And this is really moving us all towards North American energy independence. More oil in Mexico, more oil in Canada, more oil here in the United States means less dependence on the Middle East and those tyrannical oligarch oil regimes that want to try to squeeze the world's economy by controlling production in Saudi Arabia and elsewhere.
Yeah, but there's a caveat there, my friend, that you didn't touch on, and I know you're well-versed on this. I can imagine that the environmentalists are tearing their hair out, shredding their clothes, and they're absolutely gnashing their teeth going, oh my goodness, if Mexico starts to develop their oil programs, why we might have more oil on the market, and why the price will go down, and why people will drive more, and my goodness, it's going to delay green energy. I'll bet you they're going to do everything they can to stop it. What do you think?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I always try to keep in mind that this really has nothing to do with oil. It has everything to do with power. And the greenies on the left realize that as long as we have a scarce resource, then they can under the illusion of environmental sensitivity and preservation of our natural resources, under the illusion of scarcity, then they can actually fund the entire economy towards their green energy dreams. But if the myth of scarcity starts to fall, which it has, and it is, then they start to lose power. And so that's why you see, for instance, the kind of protests going on right now over the Keystone Pipeline, which should be a routine, perfunctory, sort of just pass it across a bureaucrat's desk that gets signed, an environmental impact statement is done. We have millions of miles of pipelines in the United States, but this one pipeline is somehow such a thorn, such a problem for the environmental left. And I think that you're exactly right, because as long as we can they can force a scarce supply, then they can keep the price up, and as long as they can keep the price up, then they can begin to direct the economy entirely towards all their green energy schemes.
Did you see this coming, Ben? Honestly, did you see this independent-type oil production from Mexico coming? And if you did you also sit back in your chair and say, we might see a complete lessening of these prices because of a higher quantity of oil before the end of Obama's term in office?
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't think anybody 5 years ago really saw the potential of what was going on. In fact, even in the last presidential cycle, the 2012 cycle, you had President Obama out there early in the campaign still touting this myth of energy scarcity. But what's happening is happening, and there's no denying it. We are in the middle of a domestic energy renaissance here in North America. For the first time, the United States Geological Survey, for instance, just revised their estimates of U.S. proved oil reserves. They revised them upwards 15% over last year, just because of what we're discovering, that we can actually get this oil out of the ground. North Dakota is booming, as you know. Texas is producing oil like crazy. And what that is it means that we are actually in a more economically secure situation. So did I see what was coming with Mexico? I think it was only a matter of time. I didn't know that it would have happened so dramatically, and that it looks like it may even be a lay-down issue. I mean, you have broad bipartisan support in Canada and in Mexico for developing their oil resources. Why is the United States the only place where it's such a politically divisive issue?
Absolutely.
And I think that's because probably we're a larger economy, and we have a well-organized and entrenched environmental movement here, and an administration that seems more than willing to kowtow to them.
Ben, we have a caller, and with a question, we'll be taking that, and then I've got another comment. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Hey, the other thought is if Mexico did do this, because we're not able to put refineries in our own country, if they put a refinery in their country, I can imagine the results of something like that happening, if that's a possibility.
That's a very good point, and if you don't mind, I'll have Ben address that over the air, sir.
You got it.
All right, sir.
The caller brings up a great point. You're exactly right. The regulatory restrictions on American energy development don't just happen at the production level when you're getting it out of the ground. They happen at every level of our energy processes here in the United States, from production to power generation, to refinery, to manufacturing, all the way down to consumption. And that's where you have to keep in mind the end goal for the environmentalist left is to control consumption. They want to control what kinds of energy we have access to. And Mexico gets on board with this, and they decide they're going to put some Gulf Coast refineries. What you could very well see happen is some of the imports that we're receiving go to Mexico, as well as Mexico starts refining their own fuels, and we have a real competitor in Mexico. Now, I think it'd be good for the Mexican economy. I think it'd be good for them to be able to create those jobs. One of the reasons, quite frankly, I don't, not an immigration expert, but I think if the Mexican economy were stronger and there were more good-paying jobs in Mexico, then we would probably have less a problem with illegal immigration coming to the United States. And so I'd love to see the Mexican economy go gangbusters, not only because it'd be good for their people, but I think it'd also be good for us.
Yeah, but let's back up just for a second here, Ben. You're a sharp guy, and I know you've already probably thought of this. Here you have a political ideology in the Obama administration that they're going to force us to live in caves and burn buffalo dung as a part of green energy. And yet you have a political situation where our neighbor to the south, Mexico, with the immigration problems and the lack of environmental problems down there, saying, okay, United States, listen, let's work with you on immigration and we'll work a deal with you on oil. That would be total ambiguity for this administration to try to work with them when they're trying to push green energy.
Yeah, no, that's very, very interesting. And, I just think that what's happening right now in Mexico is quite phenomenal. What's happening in the United States with development on private lands is phenomenal. You asked me earlier, could anybody have seen this 5 years ago? No. Nobody could have seen the full consequence of what's going to happen. And, Zeb, if I'm on your show 5 years from now, we'll probably be saying, wow, did you see this coming? And the fact is that the entire world sort of floats on oil. The entire world economy, oil and energy, is the sinew that hold together the entire global economy. And what is so critical right now is that the United States has this potential to reclaim sort of our position as a leader in the global economy, and energy is the way that we do that. And North American allies are a part of that. You really see the entire shift of global power back to the West. And China right now, as you've seen, their economy is starting to sputter a little bit. The driving force that they've had for the last several years is starting to slow down a bit. And so I think it's very interesting to watch what happens. And, Zeb, honestly, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes I sit back with a cup of coffee, and I just wonder if this is not a problem because the original agenda was to weaken the United States, to make us so that we are more on a level playing field with Asian economies and emerging third world economies, and then Europe. And then what's happened is those economies who have shifted, for instance, the European economies that have shifted toward the renewable goals, their economies are sluggish. And you have Germany right now trying to switch back to fossil fuels because they know they can't power their economy on wind and solar. And then you have China right now, who's the largest importer and burner of coal in the world. And we see what's happening around the world, and the president and this administration it's almost like they can't stop it. I sense the frustration here in Washington that they can't actually stop what's happening on private and state lands. They can't stop the energy boom that's occurring. And you know what? Thank God that it is, because if we were totally dependent upon this administration's policies to keep gas prices low, we'd probably be looking at $6 and $7 a gallon. In fact, if you remember what Secretary of Energy Stephen Chu said, we ought to get our gasoline prices up to about the European levels, which would be the equivalent of $9 a gallon. That was the scheme. That was the agenda. And somehow what's happening on state and private lands has thwarted the agenda to increase energy prices for consumers here in the United States.
All right, now you mentioned conspiracy theories. Look out for this one. Hold on to your Wranglers. When you look at the Middle East, when you look at the turmoil in Egypt, when you look at the turmoil possibly of sending ships down the Strait of Hormuz, through the Suez Canal, I am almost asking you this question. Do you think that this might be a pre-planned disaster over there to go along with and aid and abet Obama's cap-and-trade theory? Because if they can't get through the Suez Canal and they can't go down the Straits of Hormuz, we're going to see a cap-and-trade system here to where prices will shoot to $6 and $7 a gallon.
Well, Lord, I hope that's not what's happening, but I will tell you this: everything that we should be doing in our national interest to decrease our dependence upon those chokeholds in the Suez Canal and the Straits of Hormuz, we should be doing. That is a no-brainer for our national security, for our economy, for everything that impacts the United States and continues to make us strong, the ability to defend ourselves and our allies. Everything that can be done to reduce our dependence on oil that has to pass through the Suez Canal and the Straits of Hormuz should be done. That's why Keystone should be approved. And the one question the President has to ask about Keystone is it in the national interest? And he can't seem to answer that question, but I think I could pluck a kindergartner out of the local public school here in D.C., and D.C. has some awful public schools, and give them the option. Do you think that we should be dependent upon oil that passes through the Suez Canal and through the Straits of Hormuz coming out of the Middle East, or should we use the resources we have right here at home and put our Americans to work being able to produce that resources? And a kindergartner, I think, would get it. They would understand it is better for us to use it here than it is to depend on someone else.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Ben, there's another problem here, and it's the media itself. You know as well as I do that when you talk about ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, they're not going to do anything that's going to ruffle the feathers of this administration or the dictates of what Obama wants during his term in office. That being said, I honestly think the naive general public doesn't understand because they haven't been told about the Keystone Pipeline. It's not the only pipeline in the area, as you stated succinctly before, but the general public isn't aware of what the Keystone Pipeline is or what it can do, or they would be uproarious against Obama.
Well, you know, the majority of Americans, according to recent polling, support the Keystone Pipeline. We have a bipartisan support for Keystone Pipeline, both in the House of Representatives and in the United States Senate. I mean, there was a majority vote to support the construction of the Keystone Pipeline in April of this year in Harry Reid's Democratic-controlled Senate. This is a bipartisan, broad-based, with broad-based support, solution to develop North American energy resources and get those resources to market in an efficient, affordable way. It's a no-brainer. But for the president, Charles Krauthammer said this one night a couple of weeks ago on Fox. He said it's really not about this pipeline. It's about the money. Mm-hmm. Because he can go out and keep raising money from Tom Steyer and all these greenies on the left to pour into his Organizing for America organization as long as he doesn't approve the Keystone Pipeline. So he's going out raising money on this. That's really what this is about. It's about lining the pockets of his campaign machine more than it is about creating jobs in the United States, and he even tries to downplay the jobs it would create. Remember 2 weeks ago he said the jobs the Keystone Pipeline would create, that's just a blip, and it ought not have a factor, it ought not be a factor in making the decision.
You know something? I just absolutely enjoy having you on the program. You're a wealth of information, Director of Communication for the Institute of Energy Research, Benjamin Cole. Don't make yourself a stranger, my friend. Come back. God bless. Appreciate your help this morning.
I'm always happy to talk to you. Stay strong for freedom, my friend.
Thank you very much. Benjamin Cole. And what an interesting young man he is regarding energy, not only here, but around the globe. Thank you. It is time for a weather update, and the weather update this hour is brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, with our dear friend Ryan Horsley. I got to get Ryan on the air next week, and Red's Trading Post with Ryan Horsley has been in historic Old Town Twin Falls since the family started it way back in 1936, and they've got all your hunting needs, all your guns, all your sights, all your optics, everything, all your ammunition, knives, you name it, it's there at Red's Trading Post. Stop in and see them today. Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls. Here now, Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everybody. Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. Guess what? It's going to be cool today. When I'm talking about cool, I'm talking about it's not going to be hot. All right, so our high today versus yesterday is somewhere in the 90s. We're going to look to top out to around about 88, 63 for the overnight low. Thunderstorms in the forecast for tomorrow. Back up to the low 90s for the daytime high. And enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, the only weather you got.
Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. They're always looking for used firearms, and they'll give you a great deal on them. And don't forget, on August 30 and 31, the Smith & Wesson truck will be at Red's, and you can get some great deals on firearms at Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls, bringing you Michael Rogers weather. What we're going to do this morning, we're going to have a slight change. In just a few minutes, I'm going to do the Starving to Death segment. Why am I having trouble saying that this morning? Starving to Death segment. There you go. And then at 10:06 this morning, we're going to talk to a beautiful young lady by the name of Tracy, and she's going to give us an update on all the fires that are going on around the state of Idaho and the region. And we have just confirmed that at 10:30 this morning, we're going to have Dan Gaynor on the program, and he's going to be talking about the turmoil in Egypt. This absolutely is a powder keg that is getting worse daily, that really I don't see any guidance, any leadership whatsoever, and it definitely is going to affect the politics and the policies here in our country. I think what we'll do, and then Gene and I will visit a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody, and I know, Gene, did you ever get your breakfast, by the way?
Yes, I did eat my sausage biscuit.
Your sausage biscuit.
Mm-hmm.
You had that.
Well, it was one of those frozen kinds, so I just microwaved it.
And so you nuked it over at the radio station.
Yeah.
But you are, of course, ready and prepared to sit back, close your eyes, and drool over Starving to Death.
Yes.
I will give it to you right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Burgers, etc. at 700 North Overland in Burley, and also another location, 124 South Oneida in Rupert. Oh, they got an August special, and this is after 3 p.m. in the afternoon, where you can get mushroom burgers. Mushroom burgers, I love them, only $3.99, and you can add a soda and fries for just a little bit extra cost. Oh, it is good. And corn dogs and hot dogs and burritos and shrimp and everything else. It's absolutely fantastic. Burgers, etc. in Burley and Rupert. Let's move on over now to the Taco Bandito, 2301 Overland in Burley. I am drooling. How about this? They've got the grilled chicken, bacon, ranch quesadillas. Those are good. You're going to love those. And taco salad burritos and the macho burritos and the chimichangas. Everything is so delicious. You're going to love it at 2301 Overland in Burley, Taco Bandito. Oh, let's go over to Steve-O's. 290 South, 600 west of Heyburn. Hello, Steve-O's. Boy, I'm telling you, you can tell how good a place is by the amount of cars that are there. Holy buckets, they've got hand-patted hamburger patties made daily with love, and they've got steaks and chicken and seafood and salads and a vegetarian menu. They've got everything, and great friendly servers. Don't forget, too, music on the patio. Oh, my goodness, you're going to love it. At Steve-O's, 290 South, 600 west of Heyburn. And last but not least, in our continuing search to fulfill our needs to not be hungry, we stop at the AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley. And they're open Monday through Saturday, and of course they can make any flavor milkshake you want. And they've got all the great fish sandwiches, chicken filet sandwiches, famous Farmer Brown burgers, and all the fries with a special sauce. Woo! Baby, it's good. At the AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. And these are just a few places to go when you're hungry and starving to death.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you know, I really appreciated Benjamin Cole coming on and talking about energy and everything else. And a little bit later on, we're going to be talking about the fires. And yesterday, and I don't want to dovetail into great places to eat with this next subject, but it needs to be talked about a little bit.
Okay.
I mentioned yesterday on the program that I did not believe, those are the words I used, in the government standards and statistics regarding obesity. And I'm even more convinced after some research that I did last night and again this morning, that I'm right, and the government is on nothing more than a vendetta for more of a 7-letter word, and that is control. I absolutely do not agree with the obesity statistics. I don't agree with what they're trying to do. I think it's nothing more than trying to control society via what goes into their stomachs.
I agree. Completely, wholeheartedly agree on that one.
You know, how many people, and I'll just ask you this, you live in a town neighborhood, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm sure you do a lot of, conversations, et cetera, with your neighbors, and you probably know a lot of people right there, and also at the radio station and various clients and everything.
Right.
Of all the people that you know, and all the people that you work with, how many honestly fall into the category of being obese?
I would say maybe 10%.
You'd go that high?
I would maybe say 10%, maybe.
Based on what standard of obesity?
I'm not counting those who would consider themselves big boned. I mean, I can tell the difference. You know, if you've got the Dunlop going on, then you need to maybe address your eating patterns. But I'd say maybe, honestly, and 10% is on the high end. I'd say maybe 8%. But I know a lot of people, you know, and so 10% of 1,000 is not that much. 8% of 1,000 is not.
Well,
that
10% of 1,000 is 100.
Right.
Okay. But there again, let's apply that to the government standards of what obesity is and how they determine it. With their charts and with their figures, anybody that doesn't fall right into their categories is considered to be obese. And I find that to be so absolutely fictitious, because you're no football player, no basketball player, and quite frankly, no professional baseball player would be anything but obese according to their standards.
And they're going off, the way they go off of their standards, I really don't think is correct. And who made these standards? I mean, which doctor, which physician, what medical institute made these sort of standards? And did they honestly do, you know, a complete blanket survey of the body types that are out there?
Yeah, and whatever happened, honestly, Gino, I thought back, and since yesterday, I sat down on the floor here in my office, and I pulled out some of my old high school yearbooks, okay?
Okay.
And I mentioned this yesterday, and I had a call yesterday afternoon that kind of took me to task on this, but it's the truth. In my high school, at Fort Atkinson High School, every morning after the first class had been finished at 9:20, we had a 10-minute break to go down to the refreshment stand that was open and put on by the students for money to be garnered for various projects. And we could buy ice cream, we could buy chips, we could buy all kinds of things. And as I looked through my high school yearbook and my graduating class of close to 200 people, two people, one boy and one girl, could be considered, according to today's standards, as obese.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't believe that to be correct. They're not taking in, you know, the body type and the genealogy
there you go.
of said person.
Absolutely. You know, there are people that are born into big-boned, big people. And is the government going to try to transform us all into being these perfect people of 6 feet tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, not more than 170 pounds, and able to run the 100-yard dash in 10 flat? I mean, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. And I actually just kind of Googled what the obesity standards are. And this is what they say for somebody who's 5'9".
Yeah.
Now, I'm 5'7", so I'm not far off from this.
Okay.
They say if you're 124 pounds and your body mass index is 18.5%, you're underweight. If you weigh between 125 and 168, that's healthy. If you're 170 to 200, you're overweight, and anything over 200 is obese. And so I don't, you know, I really don't believe in these standards. They don't take into consideration, okay, well, somebody really might have bigger bones than
There you
people.
go. There you go. Do you have we'll take that quick call. I've got just enough time for one more call. Go ahead, caller, please.
I'm wondering why you're taking off tomorrow. You know, you're not that far away from the rodeo. What are you doing, taking the joy route?
To be quite frank with you, Kilt Man, they've got me scheduled for quite a few different public speaking things during the day and also the evening, so we're going to stay right there. And don't be nasty.
You're only 2 hours from the rodeo, and I know it's not going to start till 7, 8 o'clock. So.
Oh, you know that running back and forth with Obama's fuel, it doesn't make a lot of sense to run back and forth.
I understand.
All right, my friend. God bless you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye.
Have you got the chart right there in front of you real quick?
Yeah, we've got one phone call if we can squeeze it in.
Okay, I'll try to squeeze it in real quick. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Zeb, talking about body size and such, you see the marching Koreans and Chinese, they all look like paper cutouts, exactly the same height, same size, same everything. But trying to answer your question, yeah, the government might be trying to get us to do that.
You know, your point is so well taken, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. There's a classic example of looking at like the North Koreans or looking at the Red Chinese or whatever. It's so well taken that they fall into and have to fall into the government standards. Thank you for your call this morning. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you. I've got to run. I'm running late, but we'll be back in a few minutes with an update on what all the fires are doing around the state of Idaho and the region. Don't go away. We'll see you in 6. Well stated, Gina. Yes, it was a drill, ladies and gentlemen. A drill. Thank you so much. Welcome back. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service today, 734-6969. Hey, would you like to start earning $30,000 to $40,000 a year in as little as 4 or 5 weeks? Well, then you better call Lucky Bourne at CSI's new Sage Truck Driving School in Burley right now, 878-5802. You'll get one-on-one over-the-road training and all the necessary endorsements, and when you've earned your CDL, their team will help you get your first truck driving job. Well, new classes begin every week. Call Lucky Bourne right now at the new CSI Truck Driving School in Burley, 878-5802. Real quick, what's going on at the Chadwick Sports Grill today? Well, I'll tell you, they've got a senior citizen dinner special Monday through Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. Knock your socks off delicious, $5.95. And today, oh boy, does this sound good, chicken and dumplings, and it comes with a salad. Look out, that sounds good. Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and have some great food and meet some nice people at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Ladies and gentlemen, right now we're going to go to our phone lines, and we have with us a lovely lady on the telephone that is going to tell us all about the fire danger around the region and primarily in the southern part of the state of Idaho. Good morning, Tracy. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Tracy, tell us a little bit about yourself. You said on the phone call I had with you yesterday that you used to work down here in this area, and you've been on my program before. Is that right?
Well, I'm on a national incident management team out of the Great Basin, and we were on the Minidoka complex last year, and I spoke with you then.
I see. Well, when you say that incident management team, how big an area do you watch and are overseeing?
Right now, we are assigned to the eastern part of the Beaver Creek fire, so all but the part basically along the county lines. So we are covering a very large fire that's over 108,000 acres.
108,000 acres, and to me, that's almost unbelievable. Can you give us a little background as to how this fire started and where are we at right now in trying to contain it?
Well, we're finally making progress. We turned the corner on the fire, both with the help of a little bit of moderated weather conditions and getting the resources we needed to start going direct and making a direct attack on the fire as opposed to just dropping back and trying to protect structures and infrastructure. So we are 30% contained, which is up from 9% the day before. So we're definitely making progress.
Okay. Now, I would imagine that the heat and the extreme temperatures that have been here for quite some time, and then also the threat of late afternoon thunder showers with the lightning, that's always been a big fear for you folks. Has that caused any extra problem over the last couple of days?
Well, we've definitely had a lot of gusty winds, and we're under red flag warning today for erratic and gusty winds because of the threat of thunderstorms. So, with increased moisture, it's sort of a mixed blessing for us on the fire, because if we could get some showers on the fire that would cool it down, plus just the cloud cover tends to raise the humidity and help moderate the fire behavior. Unfortunately, with thunderstorms also comes, as you said, lightning and then very erratic gusty winds. So it's a heads-up situation, and our firefighters are prepared for it.
Tracy, what makes this fire season more dangerous than past fire seasons? Where does it stand as far as being on a danger level?
Well, right now, some of the indices for measuring fire behavior, predicting fire behavior, are setting record highs. And that's due to the dryness of the vegetation, the fuels out there that will burn. So this fire has been extremely aggressive, and it's been a challenge to fight. And honestly, a lot that's helped us is the burn scar from the Castle Rock fire of 2007. There's just not as much vegetation in there to burn and carry this fire, so it's definitely slowing the spread of the fire where it bumps into that old fire scar.
What about evacuations? What about loss of homes and private property? How bad has that problem been?
Well, the firefighters here have done an absolutely valiant job of protecting homes, particularly last week when the fire came roaring in through Greenhorn Gulch. Lots of homes in there that they were able to protect. And we did lose one home, which, I know that disappoints the firefighters, and we hate that for the homeowners. But, when you consider the fact that we've had over 5,000 structures or homes threatened, to lose only one, they've really done an outstanding job. And people who saw that burning through Greenhorn Gulch were amazed that anything was left standing. We face similar conditions in the Deer Creek drainage, and then all along that 75 where the mountains come up right close where the fire is, from Carbonate all the way up to Ketchum, Carbonate Mountain all the way up to Ketchum. There's been the fire's been backing down the slopes or rolling down the slopes and dropping spot fires into subdivisions, and so it's been taking a lot of work and effort to try to keep the fire on the west side of 75 and try to protect all those homes. And then it's also pushing hard towards Croy Creek that would lead it straight into Haley. We had to make a middle of the night stand against the fire there. I think Thursday or Friday night. It's all running together. And then the north end of the fire still poses a threat to properties between Ketchum, Sun Valley, and the North Fork. So we've had our hands full with this one.
Absolutely. Now, Tracy, in the grand scheme of things in the Northwest, are we're not the only ones that are burning up, literally, are we?
No. In fact, yesterday, nationally, we went to planning level 5, which is the highest planning level, and we haven't been there since 2008. And the reason we're there, several things, but one thing to look at is fires, and large fires in lots of different geographic regions. I mean, Alaska has still been having fires in August, which is really unusual. But we've got fires in the Pacific Northwest, all through the Great Basin area. Colorado just had another large fire. California's been having some fires. So resources are pretty much spread out as thin as they can get, which was part of the problem early on with this fire, is we just couldn't get the resources we needed to make a stand against it. And so that's what we're facing in a lot of the geographic areas right now.
Tracy, is this fire season, was it expected? Was it prognosticated to be this early? Or did the weather patterns and the somewhat quasi-drought, did that cause it and change everything? What happened really this year to make it so much more dangerous?
Well, I think a really dry winter in a lot of places, early snow runoff, that's what we saw here. So that the fuels are just extremely dry, and then just the way the weather patterns have set up, we've had a lot of lightning this year. But yeah, early on when they do the forecast for the fire season, and this area has been right, Idaho has been right in the bullseye for expected, they expected a busier than normal fire season for Idaho.
When you look at the overall, now here we are just in the latter stages of August, and we've still got a long time to go to be worried about it. What would you tell my audience if they're planning on going up and using public land to go camping or whatever? Give them some parameters as to what they can and can't do.
Well, I think know before you go is the best advice. Know where the closures are. Know what the restrictions are. Know whose jurisdiction the land is, because those restrictions are going to change, whether it's Forest Service or BLM. I know some hunting seasons already opened, and folks just need to be extremely careful, particularly know whether or not you can have a campfire, and make sure that you're really using caution when you're out in the wildlands, no matter what you're doing. Even driving on dry grass is critical right now for catalytic converters starting fires. People recreating, they need to make sure they've got spark arresters in their equipment. They need to make sure with off-road vehicles they stay where they're supposed to stay. And just really be heads up, because we have our hands full with lightning fires, and we don't have the resources to deal with a bunch more human-caused fires.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, the way this thing looks, we could be in, a fire danger system for, another 30 days, 45 days at least?
I would say so. We've been seeing our fire seasons get longer and longer, and this Intermountain region here Great Basin region's been seeing fires going into October.
Well, Tracy, I want to tell you how much I appreciate your taking the time to come on our program this morning. Thank you very much for your time and your expertise, and please know that I'll be in touch, and hopefully, we have a quick call. I just heard the moo of the cow on my program signifies a call, so we have a caller with a question. Go ahead quickly, caller, if you would.
Yes, I was in Jerome and on 2 days ago, and there were all day long, I saw big twin-engine, I guess, tankers flying towards Ketchum. How come you needed so many, or you want to explain that to me and I'll hang up?
Okay, good call, good question. Thank you. Go ahead, Tracy.
Oh, absolutely. We've been attacking this fire from the ground and from the air. In fact, we still have 15 helicopters assigned to the fire, and we have been using retardant from airplanes and helicopters, laying retardant lines down along ridges, trying to slow the forward spread of the fire, give our firefighters some ground to work from. You really have to use them in conjunction with the boots on the ground. Otherwise, it's kind of like pouring a little water in your campfire and assuming it's out. If you don't pour dirt on it and stir it and pour more water on it, it's going to flare back up again. So we're using a combination of those resources, the boots on the ground and the retardant, just to slow and stem the spread of this fire and get some line in so we have something to work from.
Thank you. Very well stated. Again, Tracy, thank you for your time. God's blessings, and we'll be in touch if we need to get you back on the air. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Very nice lady right there, giving us a very thorough explanation as to what the fire situation is now, the acres, 108,000 plus acres on the Beaver Creek fire alone. And we urge everyone, if you're going into an area that has not yet been closed, be careful out there. Please be cognizant of, if you do have a campfire, make sure it is dead out. Okay. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. By the way, I want to remind you, too, about our friends at Sportsman's Warehouse. Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. Telephone number to call, 737-9900. With our buddy Reese Widmeyer, the manager, they've got all the right equipment, the quality gear that you need to perform well and enjoy your outdoor journey. That's right. Sportsman's Warehouse carries only the top quality products for the serious outdoor enthusiast. Stop in to Sportsman's Warehouse, the great indoors for those who love the great outdoors. 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls, 737-9900. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587 in the time remaining for this half hour. I've got a question for you. If you were a member of the history's greatest football team ever, according to their record, the undefeated 1972 Miami Dolphins, Would you, if you were invited to meet with President Obama at a special honoring ceremony at the White House, if you were one of the players, would you go? I personally have thought about this since this story came up a couple of days ago, and I knew some of the players possibly that wouldn't go. And I thought about this, and because of Obama's ideology, and because of his politics, and because of my disdain for the man that holds the chair down in the Oval Office, I probably would not go. They've had all the accolades. They've had all the press. They've had all the trophies. They've had all the awards as being the undefeated 1972 Miami Dolphins. What really special honor would there be into standing there in a White House room with a president that you do not respect nor do you like? That's my feeling. Well, 3 of the Dolphins declared outright prior to the ceremony that they would not be attending. Jim Langer, Hall of Fame center. We had also Bob Kuechenberg, 6 times Pro Bowl offensive lineman. And also Manny Fernandez, all-pro defensive lineman. All 3 of these gentlemen said that they didn't belong there, they didn't want to be there, and they would not be in attendance because they did not agree or respect Obama's opinions and his politics. Are they wrong? Am I wrong? What would you have done had you been on that championship undefeated team and the president wanted to use you and your team as a photo op at the White House? Would you have gone? I personally would not have. I think if I'm going to be standing up for my opinions and standing up for what I believe in, and the President of the United States is a person that I do not respect, nor do I respect his ideology or his politics, I wouldn't go. There are people that probably would criticize me and saying, well, this is entirely different, they're just honoring the team. No, it was a usage, if you will, by the White House, I think, for a photo op, and I think it was only to Obama's benefit. It really didn't do anything for the 1972 Miami Dolphins. They've had all their accolades, they've had the awards, as I said, and I just don't think this accomplished anything but putting a feather in Obama's cap. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Am I right? Am I wrong? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I am waiting for your call, hopefully that's going to come in, I'd also like to remind you about the big Twin Falls County Fair and Snake River Stampede, not Snake River Stampede, Magic Valley Stampede, pardon me. Well, that helped a lot. Don't forget that's going to be going on August 28th through September 2nd, right there at the Twin Falls County Fairgrounds, Twin Falls County Fair and Magic Valley Stampede. And, of course, they've got a great concert coming up on September 1st at 7:30 p.m. with Craig Morgan. This guy has had a full bucket load of hits. It's going to be phenomenal. It's at 7:30 p.m. Get your tickets now. Prices, $20 reserve grandstand seats, $17 general admission. All of this and much, much more at your Twin Falls County Fair and Magic Valley Stampede Rodeo, August 28th through September 2nd. Gina, would you go?
Would I go to the White House?
Yeah, if you were invited underneath the premise that I just gave. Obama, wanted to meet and greet, and I think use it as nothing more than a photo op, and talk to the 1972 undefeated Miami Dolphins, and 3 of the top players on that team said they would not go. They declared outright that they would not be attending because they didn't agree with Obama's politics.
Well, I think I probably wouldn't go either.
I wouldn't. And I just wonder what the audience thinks. I think you've got to... Remember Aaron Tippin? You were part of that great big concert.
Yes.
And his song, if you can't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything.
Exactly.
Well, this is where I go along with these players like Bob Kuechenberg and Manny Fernandez and also Jim Langer. They're standing up for their convictions. We don't like the man. We don't like his politics. We don't like where he's leading this country, so we're not going to attend that ceremony. And I respect them for that.
You know, it's always nice to be honored by the President of the United States. However, I mean, if it goes against what you believe is politically right and best for the country, then yeah, bow out. And I think for me, I'm bowing out.
Let me ask you though, Gina, and you've been in the news business and you have a jaded attitude like I do sometimes, being a journalist. Is it more for the team and the honoring of that team, or is it more for the photo op and the big toothy grin about what a great president and leader Obama is?
It's for the president. I mean, and no offense to the gentlemen that were on the 1972 team, but that was back in 1972. Okay?
Yeah. And they, like I said a moment ago, they've received all the accolades and the awards and all the press and everything else as being the only undefeated team in the NFL for the history of the NFL, and they've done a great job. And personally, I looked at this invitation as nothing more than Obama with his big toothy grin and his teleprompter to stand up there and kind of show unity.
Hey, President, quit trying to do these photo ops. Open up the White House so the kids can take a tour again.
Bingo. You just took my thunder away. I was just going to get into that. Bingo. No, don't be sorry. I mean, it's a good point. I just find this to be, if I were invited as a part of a team that had set a record like these gentlemen had, I would not go. And I thought I'll read you some of the comments. Bob Kuechenberg said the following: I want to be careful because Mom said, if you have nothing good to say about someone, then don't say it. I don't have anything good to say about someone. And the inference there is to the president. And then Jim Langer said, we've got some real moral compass issues in Washington. I don't want to be in a room with those people and pretend I'm having a good time. I can't do that. I respect what he said. Okay, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give us a jingle. We would like to hear from you. Don't forget, September 21st, Minidoka County Centennial Concert with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Oh, my goodness, that is going to be a lot of fun. But before that, on August 24th, coming up, what is it? This weekend, as a matter of fact, the Minidoka Animal Shelter is going to have Adopt a Dog Day. Who let the dogs out? They're going to have Adopt a Dog Day at Cal Ranch in Burley. That's going to be 10 o'clock in the morning to 3 p.m. Minidoka Animal Shelter, Adopt a Dog Day. And for more information, you can call them at 438-2200. Ken Morton, the rest of his crew, doing an outstanding job in finding homes for all kinds of puppy dogs. So don't forget that. Gina, have you got anything to kill for 2 minutes until we turn it back over to you?
You know, not really. I am the only one here in the studio, and I've had phone ringing, and just, I think I've ran a marathon.
So aren't you sitting in a chair, just kind of taking it easy?
I am. Well, for the next 30 seconds until the phone rings again and I have to run off to a different studio and do something else. It's kind of interesting.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you have it back, and then I assume, and never should assume, that's a word that we have to be careful of, I assume that you got the information on Dan Gaynor.
Yes, I did.
All right, and Dan's going to be with us at about 10:30, but I'm going to turn it back over to you right now, and we'll be back in 3 minutes.
You got it.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Did you ever yawn so long and so hard that you almost locked your jaws? That almost happened to me just a minute ago. I'm having a case of the sleepies this morning. Excuse me. We're going to change things a little bit, restructure, and I think at this time we're going to have a quick weather update with Michael, RogersWeather.com.
Hello, everybody. Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. Guess what? It's going to be cool today. When I'm talking about cool, I'm talking about it's not going to be hot. All right, so our high today versus yesterday is somewhere in the 90s. We're going to look to top out to around about 88, 63 for the overnight low. Thunderstorms in the forecast for tomorrow. Back up to the low 90s for the daytime high. And enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. RogersWeather.com. Absolutely the best weatherman in the business. Thank you much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to have with us this morning a gentleman that's been on our program many times as Vice President of Business and Culture at the Media Research Center, and that's Mr. Dan Gaynor. Good morning, Dan. How you doing?
Well, it goes to voicemail twice.
Did you get the backup numbers?
No.
Oh, well, we'll just give them to you, being that it's live radio. We'll keep shooting until we get one, okay?
Shoot.
Here we go. 301.
301.
442.
442.
8853.
8853.
And if that doesn't work, I got another one.
Okay, well, this is live radio.
Oh, this is live radio at its best. Do-do-do. Somebody please answer the phone. Dan Gaynor, Zeb Bell.
Hey, Zeb. Can I do you do a quick favor here? Can I call you back? I had my phone on Do Not Disturb. I didn't realize it, so it rang to this number. Can I call you back?
All right, sir. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to it.
What's the number?
Call us at 1-866-927-4587.
4587.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Live radio. That's what I like. Everybody can hear all the little mistakes and everything, and the sweaty palms and the furrowed brow and the eyes going.
And that just kind of fits right along with the morning that I've been having, because seriously, I am the only person here in the studio right now. Okay, this is Dan calling back in, so I'm just going to go ahead and
all right,
plug
good
it in.
deal. Good morning, Dan. Thanks for calling back. We appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you. When I had it on Do Not Disturb, it rang into my personal cell, and I have used up all my cell minutes.
No, I can understand. Listen, I reiterate the fact that I'm very happy and honored to have the Vice President of Business and Culture at the Media Research Center, Dan Gaynor, on our program, as he has been many times in the past. Dan, to start off our conversation this morning, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, I am extremely concerned about what's happening in Egypt. I'm very concerned about the turmoil. I'm very concerned about the lack of politics and the lack of policies. I look at this to where it could be a powder keg that could ignite the entire Middle East and really be a huge problem against our only ally over there, and that's Israel. Am I right? Am I wrong? Or am I worrying too much?
Oh, you're right to worry. Absolutely right to worry. You've got a really awful situation, and here's what people need to understand why it's awful. Egypt is the most populous Arab state. Okay, population of 90 million people. 10% of that are Coptic Christians. It is next door to Israel. It has been armed and trained by the American military. Actually, I think it's more like 60 million, by the way, just as I'm thinking about that. I think I got the number wrong. And then also has the Suez Canal travel through it, with somewhere between 20 to 25% of all world oil travel through the canal. So basically, a problem in Egypt is a problem for the whole Middle East. As it's been long said, as Egypt goes, so goes the Arab world. When Arab Spring lit up the Mideast, one of the places it set fire to was Egypt, and they got rid of a long-standing strong man who was also friendly to U.S. and Hosni Mubarak. Then they had an election, and the Muslim Brotherhood won because they were the only organized entity other than the military. The military kind of stayed out. And so next thing you know, you had the rise of what could have been an Islamic State. More rational people didn't like that. They kicked out the Muslim Brotherhood leader, and the net result of that has been chaos since then. The government of Egypt, run by the military right now, argues that the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. They have a real good argument. They're friends with Al-Qaeda. When they were upset with the government, they went around burning Coptic Christian churches, persecuting Christians. They burned close to 60 churches in Christian territory. That is astonishing. You're right to worry. I mean, this is a problem that we are watching the forces for normalcy fight the forces for radicalism in the Mideast, and our own government is trying to pick the sources for radicalism to decide to back.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Dan, let me ask you this question, and you might think I'm completely nuts when I say this, but is this deja vu all over again with the all of a sudden Hosni Mubarak possibly going back to Egypt, and our government with Obama hasn't done or said anything as to who they're going to back? Could we possibly be seeing a deja vu with Mubarak coming back into power, forced upon the Egyptian people because of our financial aid and backing?
No, I don't think so. And frankly, I think our government wouldn't push that. And I don't. And here's an interesting thing: we give financial aid. It's mostly in the form of military equipment that goes to the military.
Yeah.
And Saudi Arabia has openly said that anything we pull out as far as aid to Egypt, they will replace. So it's not like it's a real big threat right now. But Mubarak, things were bad under Mubarak. But I remember the point where I realized that the Egyptian government was in trouble, and it was actually a very minor thing. As a result of ethanol, the rise of use of ethanol a couple of years ago with drought conditions in the United States, crop prices went up a lot. Egypt had, at the time, something like 40% unemployment. And much of the population was reliant on government-subsidized bread for food. And the government had to raise the price of bread, and soon after that they had unrest. It's all linked. Then they had Morsi come in, and when Morsi left, half of the population was unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it sounds like that's you went from awful to really awful, but it's still awful was better by comparison. I mean, one of the evening news shows just last night said in the tourist areas around the pyramids. Now, I mean, the pyramids, one of the seven wonders of the world. The tourist areas had not seen one tourist in 3 weeks.
Oh my.
So I mean, they said, the reporters I've seen interviewed said, you can go down streets and it's a ghost town. They've got a 7 p.m. curfew and stores are closing before that. Nobody's buying, nobody's spending. Stores and businesses are barely surviving or closing up. So the economy is locked down. And that just only leads you to a worse problem.
Okay, but now where do we go? Where do they go? How does this government prevail? How do they have any success? The Muslim Brotherhood and Corsi, they're out. Now they're fighting back. They're killing. They're looting. They're doing everything. Our government, our administration, and Obama hasn't said or done anything to help solidify the problem. What is going to happen over there with a lack of leadership and really no party or party head is taking control?
Well, unfortunately, our own government, and both Democrats and Republicans, because you've had Lindsey Graham and John McCain both pushing to drop funding for the Egyptian military. I would argue we shouldn't do that. We have good ties with the Egyptian military. I think the Egyptian foreign minister, I think, was on television last night saying America stands against terrorism, but doesn't understand that that's exactly what the Egyptian government is fighting right now. And I agree with them. I think it is. I look and see the 25 security personnel who were butchered in the Sinai by Islamist radicals the other day. I look at that and see that as terrorism, because it's terrorism. I see a faction of their nation that doesn't want modernity. There was a woman who was interviewed who appeared on several networks yesterday, an Egyptian woman whose son had been killed, and then they're interviewing her, but she starts to go into a rant saying they will not tolerate a non-Muslim government. They will that the people who went against Morsi, she won't tolerate them in power. That's what we're fighting. That's what the Egyptians are fighting. And sooner or later, you have to pick a side. It doesn't mean that what the Egyptian military is doing is necessarily good or righteous or moral, but they are fighting, in their opinion, a war for the survival of their nation. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, both sides do things that they will later regret. But that's what's going on, and I think if we were going to pick a side, I would vastly prefer picking a side that is both friendly to America and not friendly to radical Islam.
Absolutely. Dan, let's bring this closer to home. As you know, I've been very outspoken against the Muslim Brotherhood and Obama's involvement with the Muslim Brotherhood and Hillary Clinton appointing some Muslim Brotherhood appointees to her cabinet and certain positions. Michelle Bachmann stood up and she absolutely wanted to know why Muslim Brotherhood people were being appointed, and at that juncture, our congressman from Idaho, Mike Simpson, sent her a letter of condemnation stating that she was a McCarthyist for asking these questions. Are we being duped and absolutely being hypnotized into thinking the Muslim Brotherhood are good people?
There may be people who are good in the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, it's a huge faction in Egypt. And I'm not saying that they should be shot down in the street, but the Muslim Brotherhood is a radical pro-terror organization. They are not friendly. They are reminiscent of some of the worst entities that come to power in democracies around the world. They're a well-organized, well-oiled machine. But when they came to power, they started trying to use that power to make their nation Islamist. And the military and the vast majority of Egyptians said, no, we don't want this. So now the American government, both Republican leaders and Democratic leaders, are acting like they have a right to tell the Egyptians not to stand up to the Muslim Brotherhood. And I'm sorry, but where are the Egyptians? I would say, look, you either want us as a friend or you don't. But either way, we're going to do what we need to do for our nation to survive.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about oil a little bit because you touched on this earlier, and with your expertise, I'd like you to elaborate on it. I don't think that the American public, the general American public, realizes that just literally overnight we could be seeing gas prices inflate $2-3 a gallon because of the problems of trying to get ships through the Straits of Hormuz and also through the Suez Canal if this thing really blows up into a more conflagration of civil war. What are your thoughts about oil versus that area and here in the United States?
Well, I think I don't think we'd end up blowing up that bad, but could it get bad? Yeah, I mean, yes. Oil was trending in the low 90s just a few months ago, and now it's dropped a little bit today, but it's still at 105. That's a pretty significant change. If Egypt really breaks into civil war, and the canal stops functioning because it becomes a terror target, well, yeah, that's a really awful scenario, a very expensive scenario, and that's one of the reasons why the price is up right now. People are guessing that might happen. We have a lot of energy in this nation, and we should be making use of that. Obama should allow us to build the pipeline for the Alberta tar sands while we can still access that energy. That is what we need. Energy security, not energy independence. Energy independence is sort of a misnomer because it acts like the United States would be separate from the rest of the world in its energy. And it's not. Our energy can be sold on the public market. If natural gas, for instance, goes for a lot cheaper in America, so there's a push for us to be able to sell gas elsewhere because American companies will benefit. Of course, that makes sense. So we're trying to say Energy independence, no, because we're part of the globe. But energy security means that if suddenly we were not getting the same shipments of oil, Venezuela and OPEC just decided not to ship us oil, that we still would not grind to a halt as a society. That's what energy security means.
Mm-hmm. One final thought here this morning, Dan, when you talk about the Middle East and how tumultuous this problem is right now, it's always easy to turn on the radio or the television or read the newspaper and they talk about Egypt and their unrest, but really our neighbors, our number one ally over there, caught right in the middle of this mess, Israel. What are your thoughts about what they should be doing and or are doing to protect themselves in case all heck breaks loose?
Well, I mean, Israel is one of those nations that's actually pretty well run, and they are strongly in agreement that we should continue to support the military in Egypt. And so if you have any doubts about what we should do, that to me is a guideline. Not that we allow them to dictate our foreign policy. We don't. The people who say that kind of stuff are crazy tinfoil hat people. But Israel is an ally, and we try to work with them, just like we try to work with all our allies. And it would be foolish for us to do what a lot of people in the media seem to think that we should, which is bow to the Muslim Brotherhood and take their side. I just don't understand it. There's a lot of push by the major media to do that. The new TV network, Al Jazeera, has been so blatantly pro-Muslim Brotherhood that they've been shut down in Egypt, and 22 of their staffers quit in Egypt.
Wow. Dan, final thoughts regarding Christianity in that area. You started off the conversation, and I don't think we went into it enough. Christian churches are at the whim of everybody either firebombing, shooting, etc. There's been murders. What are the thoughts that you have regarding Christianity in that part of the world right now, which seems to be turning more anti-Christian every day?
Well, I mean, we may see... The great irony is we may live to see a largely Christian-free Mideast, and that the one nation where Christians will be safe is the one nation that was founded to protect Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
And what you see is, I mean, people don't realize this. Everybody always says, oh, well, Israel's got a population of about 7 million people, and they say, well, roughly 6 million Jewish people and 1 million Arabs. But the overwhelming majority of those Arabs, they're Christian. That is a reality. And you look at some of the holy sites over Israel. I've been to Israel, and you will see battles between Palestinian Christians versus Palestinian Muslims over a holy site, because the Palestinian Christians don't feel that, the Church of the Annunciation, there's a big plaza beneath it that the Palestinian Muslims wanted to build a mosque on that would dwarf the Church of the Annunciation. The Palestinian Christians didn't want them to do that. Periodically they'd throw rocks at one another. But the rest of the Arab world, if the Arab Spring takes hold, increasingly we'll see it a hard time for Christians.
Absolutely.
You look at Syria. It is a battle between two branches of Islam, but one of them, oddly enough, run by the one that's supported by Hezbollah, a terror group, and is the leadership of Syria, Assad. They are more friendly to the Christian minority in their country as a way of boosting the leadership of the government. So pretty much it's hard for Christians to win in the Mideast right now.
Mm-hmm.
It just is, in most of these countries. For the sake of the Coptic Christian minority in Egypt, we have to hope that the military remains strong and that the Muslim Brotherhood stays out of the leadership of the government.
Absolutely. Dan, I want to tell you, first of all, how much I appreciate last minute how you jumped in and helped us on this half hour. We appreciate it. Vice President of Business and Culture at the Media Research Center, Dan Gaynor. God bless you, my dear friend, and please come back and talk to us in the near future.
Well, you can count on that. And thanks a lot. And it's always a pleasure to be on with you.
Thanks, Dan. The best to you. Thank you, sir. One of the nice guys in this business, and I appreciate him, Dan Gaynor, with the business and culture section of the Media Research Center. Thank you very much for being on the program this morning. Well, let's tell you a little bit about our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Center, shall we? All 7 locations serving you. And when I say serving, that's the key word. All the tires for all your driving needs, all the different tread designs, everything you need. And this is for your car, your pickup, your SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever. You just stop in and tell them what you're looking for, and they will help you. Also, I want to reemphasize, as I say many, many times on their ads, best brake value promise in the industry. Professionally trained technicians, premium quality parts, over 30 years experience, best brake warranty. They really know their business. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. The key word, service. They really take care of you at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Lane and Rupert, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Gina, sitting in the chair, wondering and contemplating the fate of the world. I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Due to the fact that I am going to be leaving immediately after the program, I was wondering if maybe you could help me out with maybe a little song or something so I can get on the road. But also, pardon me?
Any particular?
Oh, you know, one of my favorites happens to be Toby Keith.
Okay.
But I want to say to Gina and tomorrow to Sharon Hardy Mills that I have 2 wonderful ladies that I'm going to turn the program over tomorrow, and they're going to take care of my programming and all the interviews and everything else. And I feel very comfortable in leaving in the adequate and always knowing hands of Gina to oversee things. So thank you very much for all your effort.
Well, you are very welcome, and safe travels. Remember to grab the fire extinguisher and take it with you wherever you go.
Funny, you should say that. It's not funny, it's true.
No, I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to wish the very best to you and have a wonderful weekend and God's blessings to you and your family. If you get a chance, come on down to the Golden Spike Rodeo and, of course, the Box Elder County Fair in Tremont, Utah. We'll be there, and we'll see you next Monday at 8:06. We'll ride the horse for 3 hours. Zeb at the Ranch, God bless. The way things were, the way things ought to be. We'll see you then.